So assuming you've got one of these or something a lot like it, everybody seems to, what does it take to bring an old air rifle that's been neglected over the years back from the dead? Welcome back to Canic Air. What I have here on the bench is just a stand-in for just about any old air rifle that's been left in the corner of a garage or a shed or something like that, and then has been allowed to go rusty over the years. This in particular is a Slavia 618, which was a fairly small model Slavia. It is quite tiny. This gun is quite petite. There's not a lot to it. You can just kind of wrap your hand right around it. Very much a youth-oriented gun for sure. Only about 910 millimeters long, so 91 centimeters. That's pretty darn short. And yet, there's a certain aspect of fun about it. So the question is that where does it come from? Well, it's possible that somebody like me might have picked one up at a flea market type gun show. May have paid $30 for it. That's plausible. Could be that somebody handed it to me and said, "Hey, I found this in the garage. It hasn't been shot in years. What can you do with it?" That's also a scenario. Or there could be some grandpa out there who thinks that his grandchild might really enjoy learning to shoot with a rather vintage air gun, and thinks that this is something that is a better bet than some of the plastic things he sees on the shelf at the local sporting goods store these days. Any of the scenarios could be true. Pick yours. What I'm going to do, though, is try to bring it back using some fairly basic tools. I'm not going to use my fancy screwdrivers today. I've got just my more ordinary ones, similar to what you might have. Got some punches here. Probably going to need those to get some of the drive some of the pins out. And of course, my favorite hammer that goes with this is a tacking hammer, but I've got others, but I just seem to like this one when it comes to driving out pins. And the big tool today is going to be a big wad of very fine steel wool. This is needed to erase some of the rust pitting that is in here. I'll take some close-ups of that just to show you what we've got. And of course, we need some sort of solvent to do its magic. WD-40 works quite well. There's a few others out there as well. Ballistol is probably a good choice, but it's also a bit more expensive. So, and again, we're not looking at leaving a preserving coat on it. We're just looking at getting rid of this crud off it. So that is what we'll give a shot at. So anyway, let's dig in. Okay, with the bench all cleared off, got some space to work here. Put my extra lens out of the way. So, first step with any sort of air rifle disassembly is to usually get it out of the stock. This old gun, which I believe was made, they say they're made from 1960s to 1970s. Where's my container? Here it is. Nice thing about air rifles is there's not a lot of parts you have to really worry about, at least from my perspective. I can always kind of remember where they all go. If you have trouble with things like that, it makes sense to put them on little baggies and label them, or little containers. If you do a lot of this kind of thing, baggies get in the way. Those you can buy pill containers pretty cheaply, and they kind of work nicely. This gun has little serrated washers embedded in the stock there. Embedded probably just in the pressure of the screws. The backs of the screws are serrated, so they're designed to stay there. That's kind of cool. This screw here at the front of the trigger guard, which sometimes you'll find in some guns is slotted for a trigger adjustment or something. This one isn't. It's a long screw, goes up in there straight into the action, which means now this should be free to come out. Yes, it does. And there's always the interesting surprise. Do you find when you get it out of the stock that what's hidden under the stock is in terrible, much worse condition than what's on top, because it was allowed to get moist and damp inside there? Or do you find that actually what's underneath is in better condition? And that's what we have here. There's a lot less surface rust on these parts here. So yeah, This is the stock. We'll have to refinish this at some point. The rear screw is usually just a wood screw that just holds the trigger guard on. 9 times out of 10, that is what you'll find. Okay. Yeah, probably have to refinish the stock. There's interesting little cracks or something in here. It's hard to imagine this gun being under such stress that it would crack the stock. That may just be cosmetic marks in the wood. We've lost a bit of finish here and there on it. So yeah, restoring this finish is probably not a good idea. It'd be possible, but it's not like these guns are terribly rare or valuable, although people have fondness for them. They're a cute small rifle that they remember from their youth, and yeah, there's a collector interest in them. The barrel on this one looks decently straight. This is a later model of the 618. I can say that because they apparently added this locking screw to the main barrel pivot bolt. Earlier ones just had one screw that went straight through, and that they would back off, I guess, and your barrel pivot would end up getting loose, which is not good for accuracy. Not that these are target rifles by any means, but when you're competing with other guns that shoot well, you want to do your best, don't you? Fairly basic crude trigger on this one. Straight direct sear, just literally lets the piston go, which is latched. Not sure where it's latched. That's the this is where the cocking bar pushes on this little piece of the piston right here. Spring goes up inside it there. Spring looks nicely lubricated. Not sure where it locks, so it must be a central shaft on the piston that locks onto the trigger. That trigger will come out. Okay, so this is all we do is pull that out of there, and in this instance, this is CZ likes to do this. Like we just rotate this around, and it will come out, but we probably have to drive this pin out before it will rotate. Similar to the Baykal that I worked on a while ago. Okay, so let's remove the barrel pivot. I'll be working on these pieces. That's really stuck, isn't it? Yeah. Be working on these pieces separately to remove the rust and other corrosion. This screw right here, its only purpose is to stop this one from turning. Once you've decided the proper tension for the barrel pivot. The idea is when you tighten up a barrel pivot, you don't want the barrel to flop around loose. That when you cock the gun, you should be able to leave the barrel at any position you want, and friction will hold it. That suggests then that the barrel is tightly clamped in the forks and doesn't have any vibration issues when the gun is fired. At least that's how brake barrel spring piston air rifles should be set up, according to current wisdom. These Slavia 618s are a little interesting in how they're built. They're obviously, being the baby gun of the range, the incentive is to keep production costs low so you don't lavish things on expensive sights, or even the piston tube. These appear to be two separate pieces. Slavia were quite good at doing this. Somewhere this is crimped onto the front forks. These are actually two separate units, so I'll be darned if I can see the dividing line. It may be on this serrated surface here. But yeah, they were crimped together, keep them airtight, and you could make the rear part out of a much less expensive folded tubing. And the front part would be what you would have to mill it. So this is now, sometimes it helps to break the gun. Oh yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, it just falls right out. So just, I guess the spring tension from the locking block was just holding the extra friction there. And this should just drop right out of here. Yes, it does. This is riveted, and this is a folded steel piece. On some fancier guns, you'll find them solid metal. Sometimes you'll find them multi-link. The advantage of a multi-link is that you can keep the cocking slot in the stock shorter. Less chance for it to crack. And then this, the locking wedge is pinned in there. That would be a pain to remove. We don't really need to, as it looks like it's been fairly well kept oiled and everything. Looks all right. The barrel pivot, the barrel seal, sorry, breech seal is leather. I'm guessing leather. I don't know, actually, I'm not 100% sure on that. I think it is. I believe these guns had leather piston seal, so we'll have to see the state of the piston seal on this thing. It does shoot though, so I fired a couple of pellets through it, so it actually does work. So I didn't bother testing it for velocity or accuracy or anything like that, but once we get into it, we'll learn more. So the next usual thing is we have to drive out this pivot and get the spring out, because that's pretty much all that's left. My favorite tools for this is I have keep a couple of wooden blocks around. They're surprisingly useful when dealing with things that are round. They have just a groove cut in them. They came from some sort of crate packing stuff. Not sure what kind of wood they are, but it's tough enough for what I'm doing here. So salvaged a few pieces of that, and it's been pretty handy. So I don't think I need to worry about this coming out, because that is caught on there. Other guns, you would want to clamp it, either with on a fairly lightweight gun like this. Just a regular woodworking clamp will do. They're long enough, they'll hold it. Bigger guns with bigger compression springs, well, yes, you do want to have more of a spring compressor, whether you make your own with double clamps or threaded rods or whatever, especially when you want to put it back in again. It's one thing to get the spring out, it's another thing to try to crush it back in again under pressure and put the pin back in. But right now we should be able to get this thing out without too much fuss. There we go, came straight through. Here's our trigger, a machine surface on here, and then just a stamping clamps around it. Yeah, okay, very good. And then so maybe just one more tap will get that out. Okay, there we go. And keep that in there for a moment, it'll stop it from going anywhere. And then I'm going to apply a bit of pressure on here and hopefully be able to turn it and get it out. So let's see what we can do. This inexpensive bar clamp will do the job. Could squeeze on there like that. Yeah, actually it does work. Sometimes putting a smaller diameter piece in there, like a socket from your socket set, will just pop in there. They're strong. They don't scratch up badly. And we just need to rotate this little tab around. So most guns don't have this, but this is something that Slavia likes to do, and apparently Baikal. And need something with a little more. Not there yet. I'm going to try that socket set thing. Yeah, that'll do it. All right, squeeze it a little further. Oh, right. Take the pin out. Did that last time with the Baikal. I was tapping away, not realizing I was stopping it from rotating. That should be clear. So if I release tension on this now, this should come apart. This gun is fairly lightweight, so I won't have any serious pressure on it. Other guns will really come apart, so if you don't feel comfortable doing this kind of stuff, don't attempt it. But okay, there's our spring guide at the back. There's our spring. Little slight curve to it, but not terrible. Pretty greasy, which is great. Great news. And the piston does indeed have that hook on the back of it. It's amazing how tight these things are, considering the spring has to fire it down at great velocity. Ah, we do have a synthetic piston seal on here. Interesting. And when you're pulling these things apart, you want to make sure that you don't scuff up the sides of your seal on any of these sharp edges here. And they will be sharp because they don't have time to polish all the edges of these things. But there we go. There's our piston and its seal. Yeah. Looks in good condition. There we go. This is now completely apart. There's nothing left inside that. As for the barrel, I could remove the rear sight, I think. It is dovetailed in there. Rule of thumb is usually that dovetails are inserted from this side, so you drive them out that way. That's the rule. Whether everybody agrees to that rule is an interesting question. But it should come out, and this is your sight adjustment. So, yeah, I'll go this way. I think it's moving. Yeah, it is. A bigger hammer will certainly move it faster, but sometimes it is a good idea to use a big hammer. But the small one is what I'm using today. There we go, that's out. Nothing really wrong with that, that's fine. I just want to be able to get under here and make sure this is all clean. Clean it best I can. So that's riveted. I'm not going to remove that. The front sight is protected under this nice little hood there, which is interesting because I'll tell you, I see a fair number of air guns with little grooves for the front sight hood, and they never seem to have a front sight hood on them. So it makes you wonder whether they actually ship with them or they just get lost. So there we go. Good bit of rust underneath here, and we'll hopefully try to treat that as well. So, next step, let's see what we can do about the rust. You know, in my younger years, I would have been certain that anything with this sort of rusty marks on it would have been pretty much considered ruined. But I've discovered over the years that some things can respond quite well to a bit of careful treatment with some nice solvents, bit of quadruple zero steel wool, which used to be made in the next county over from me, but now this stuff comes from China. It's kind of sad, really. But as you see, the rust is being dissolved a fair bit, and you can hear the crunching as it cuts into it. The trick when using this technique is to take your time. If you scrub too hard, you don't want to ruin what bluing is left on the gun. And you want to be able to just scrape away, dissolve away that surface oxide. And it's you will get a mottled appearance. We'll deal with that a little bit later, but you'll never get completely rid of it. But at least the gun will look decently blue and black again, as opposed to looking, well, splotches of orange on it. Actually, this is coming off better than I thought it might. There are some particularly bad spots on the gun, and I have to say the barrel is clearly the worst of it. I can imagine some of that may have just come from sweaty hands cocking the gun and grabbing that barrel and not wiping it down with an oily cloth when you're done, which is what we're all told to do, but who actually does that every time? Well, we should all do that every time. The machining marks on this gun actually go around it, so it makes sense to rub it this way. Well, this is quicker than I thought. Let's take a look and see how we're doing. Well, that is shockingly good. I did not expect it to look that good. There's still marks there, obviously. It's not a new gun by any means. You're not going to fool anybody into thinking this is just come out of the shipping container. But my gosh, that is actually much better than I thought it would come back already. And there's some other things we can do to just put a little fine touch on its polish. Yeah, looking pretty good. And once you've done all this, you'll want to make sure you keep some sort of lubricant on there for while you're working on it before it all goes back together again. Got your various gun treatments, which all work very nicely. Whatever your favorite might be, CLP, G96, Ballistol. WD-40 is not the one that people recommend for long-term storage of a gun, but if you're just protecting the finish while you're still working on it, it'll do. Wow. Okay, for a first pass on that, that's actually pretty good. And I'm wondering what I can do to this barrel. Didn't think I'd be working on this thing for quite some time, but well, here it is already. Same piece of steel wool. Bought a big bag of it just in case, but this has definitely seen some worse rusting. It may have degenerated into actual deeper pitting, but yeah, this is definitely, well, it's actually not too bad. So scrubbing away on this barrel, it's responding fairly well to our treatment, except here is definitely a deeper pitting area. Again, that's kind of where a hot, sweaty hand would be grabbing the gun when you're cocking it on a hot summer's day up at the cottage, shooting away at tin cans or learning how to shoot an air rifle accurately. It's a good question as to whether this is all very sensible. I mean, this is a fairly old gun, made from the 1960s through the 1970s. Some people say they're made in the 50s, but I don't know, that's kind of hard to say. One of the official sites in Czechoslovakia, or on site on Czechoslovakian guns, which of course are now Czech Republic, they list 1960s as sort of a start date. Yeah, definitely some rusty bits here and there, but Sometimes when you do this kind of treatment, you end up with bald spots where you take the rust off and you end up with shiny bits underneath because the bluing is gone. And redoing that is an interesting question. Usually we use cold blue for that, which is the chemical preparation, which is a selenium compound that blackens the metal but doesn't have the same, anywhere near the same protective abilities as a proper chemical bluing. So, more valuable guns, you strip away all the bluing down to bare metal, polish everything, and have it professionally re-blued. Again, it's never as good as the original bluing, but at least not considered as good, especially to collectors. On collectors' items, they prefer to see everything original. But if you're trying to protect a gun and make it look good for the next generation, especially if it has been, abused a bit, these things happen. Sometimes they just get dropped and scratched and put a gouge in something, and the only way to remove that gouge is to polish it out. It takes away the bluing. So you start again. But in this case, with an old air gun, nobody's going to lavish that kind of attention on it. So, yeah, definitely some pitted bits here for sure. The orange rust is gone, but it's still, the metal is certainly bubbled a bit. But it's not terrible. Front sight is definitely a bit rusty still. Some people, when selling old air guns, will point to a layer of rust and some pitting here and there and describe it as patina. And I like how Mark Novak on his channel just basically describes patina as a combination of rust and neglect. There's honest wear and tear from a gun that's been handled and carried in a holster or a scabbard, or been through military campaigns or something. Yes, you're going to find bald spots on a gun here and there from years of handling under appropriate conditions. But when you look at something like this, it just has an overall layer of orange spots on it. That's just from being ignored for far too long. All it takes is a little bit of wiping it down with oil every couple of years if you're not using it, or spraying it with a treatment, and it would stop that kind of thing. So obviously the gun was left to sit somewhere. Even handling would stop some of that rust from forming. So what do we have for a breech seal here? It's hard to say what that is. Given that the piston seal is synthetic, this probably is synthetic as well. I'm reluctant to peel it out of there just in case it does get damaged. I think it may be leather. Yeah, definitely feels like it might be leather. Certainly not an O-ring anyway, that's for sure. Well, got a bit more work to do on this. Next step, we'll see what we can accomplish with a bit more of a polish. This trigger guard is also fairly rusty as well. And I do think this one's going to lose its finish when we get through the rust. So this will probably be a candidate for some sort of cold bluing. Just nature of the metal, it's a bit different than what they use on barrels, or at least it seems to behave differently. Still better than I thought it would be. You notice I'm not using gloves in this process, which is just a great way to stain your fingers all rust colored. But my thing is I like to be able to feel what I'm doing, and then put gloves on. I just seem to not get as close a sense of where the rough spots are, or the smooth spots are, whether I've achieved what I need to, and move on. See, this is definitely going to be a tricky spot because trying that curve there. Cleaning up the front side here, there's not much damage to it at all, although it is a bit crusty on the inside. Yeah, definitely rough. The rear sight. Okay, that screw doesn't come out. It's peened in there, which is probably a good idea when you think about it. Otherwise it would go missing in a heartbeat. Gee, Dad, I don't know what happened to that. It's all actually better condition than I thought. Thought I'd be slaving over these little small parts for quite a while, and especially the barrel and the receiver tube. I thought I'd be working on it centimeter by centimeter, but yeah, it's all coming apart fairly well. Oh, yeah, the exterior part we worry about is this the rear cap to the tube. It's yeah, these parts are all remarkably clean and pitting free. Yeah, the trigger guard has definitely lost some of its finish there. We'll buff it a bit, and maybe a little bit of cold bluing will even it out a bit more, just for cosmetics. Yeah, because you can see the difference there. The trigger itself is actually quite good. Like I said, the rear sight's good too. All these parts are in good shape. There we go. So the next level of cleaning and polishing after you've done with all your steel wool is to break out your Dremel tool or Craftsman equivalent and find a use for that steel wire wheel that they give you. Again, bit of WD-40, spin the tool up. This is the trigger guard here. The wheel does bring another level of cleaning to it. You see even more rust is coming out of it. And you get back to, closer back to bare blued metal again. Again, as you keep doing it, you're going to start wearing through the bluing, or at least revealing where the bluing is kind of gone. But again, we'll worry about that later. Want to remove the rust. Probably do that a few more times and still get orange coming off on your cloth. Did all right on there. Where it does probably better is on the heavier steel parts, where you feel that there's still something going on there, especially on this barrel, which was a lot more pitted than the receiver tube. Let's see what we got here. Yep. And it gets better and cleaner every time you do it, so. This scuffed part here, that's just outright pitting. That's not going to go away. The only thing to solve that would be to polish it back with emery cloth or something, and you'd, of course, you remove the bluing all around that area, and you'd have to try to retouch that, and it probably wouldn't fill in very well. Might end up doing that. We'll see. Well, on this nice little barrel I have here from the Slavia, the surface rust has come off pretty well. If you look closely, you can tell that it's not a pristine barrel, of course, but this area has a little bit of a rusty rash. You can definitely feel the texture on it there. You can ignore it. It's if you keep it oiled, it's not going to get any worse. But if we were going after a bit more of a cosmetic restoration, I'm going to see if I can take that down and then apply some cold glue to it. Nothing fancy. We'd be paying for a hot glue job on an inexpensive rifle like this. So what I'm going to do is take a flat file and see if I can remove the surface blemishes there. And following the grain, this rifle obviously still has its machining marks. The barrel, I should say, has some machining marks on it. Run around it, not lengthways. Yeah, you can definitely see the redness coming through there. So there's red hiding underneath. Could definitely take some emery cloth to it. That's a possibility. We'll see how this does it. At the end of the day, I'm looking to remove the rust and get down to some bare metal that I can touch up a bit with some bluing compound. Don't want to be too aggressive here, and I only want to do this patch. I'm not going to do the whole barrel. I have done a whole barrel before. I just brought a rifle that literally somebody had stripped all the bluing off it for some inexplicable reason, probably because they saw rust on there and went down to bare metal. But yeah, that took the cold bluing pretty well, actually. I was quite surprised. It still looks good to this day. But I don't want to do that to this one. Well, it's taken off the bumps, that's for sure. Definitely see some pitting underneath. A little unevenness in the surface. hole blowing solution, see what happens. And before that dries, I will go wash it off. I've got 2 treatments of the bluing on there. Rinsed it off. It's all fairly rough, but I'll soak some oil into it. Usually leave it soak in for a day or so. It won't be an invisible fix, but it should be prettier looking than that rusty rash we had on there. So, yeah. Put that somewhere where it can soak in and not wipe off, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we've had our first proper setback on this project. Inspecting the 2 things you really need to make an air gun make pressure, or keep that pressure, is we need seals. The barrel has to seal tightly against the receiver tube. In this case, Slavia is still using a leather type seal, and it's in actually pretty decent condition, and that will respond to a bit of treatment with a leather product, maybe some neatsfoot oil. Just cause it to swell up just a little bit, and it'll do just fine for another 50 years. Well, maybe. But the bad news comes when looking at the piston seal. I cleaned the gunk off it, and it is a synthetic seal, which surprised me. I thought, might be leather like the inside of the barrel seal, but no, it is a synthetic. And this is what they call a parachute type seal. It has a little channel around the outside here that, when it forces its way down the receiver tube, air pressure building up presses this little lip against the sides of the chamber wall, which is at least that's how it's supposed to work, or the theory. But you can see the problem right here is we have a piece missing right there, and some sort of a flat spot groove here. So yeah, it's not. I mean, it still works. It still fired a pellet out, but it's not going to produce as much pressure as it should do, presumably. So as we've seen, the piston seal in our little Slavia 618 is in rather poor condition. There's a bite taken right out of the side of the seal here. It's you can see it pretty hard to see on camera, but there's a piece that kind of chipped away, and that will probably allow compressed air to leak past the cylinder and, of course, rob efficiency. So yeah, it's a pretty small seal in this gun, only 22 millimeters across, so that's a good bit smaller than your typical air rifle. But then again, this was designed to be a small, youth-sized gun. So what arrived the other day in the mail is a replacement seal for a Slavia 618, so I'm told. It is not a factory original one, as those ones appear to be a bit unavailable at the moment. But this is from that Australian company. It's very good quality, nicely made and all that. It isn't a parachute type seal, though. It does not have a groove around the side here where the sides are meant to flare out a bit with compressed air. At least that's how we imagine they work anyhow. So this is just a straight slug of a thing, but hopefully we'll seal up the piston nicely. Now we do have to get rid of the old one, and there's various probes and picks you can get into. This might just do the job. Yeah, actually it might. This is just a prying tool with a screwdriver on the other end. I seem to misplace the wooden handle it goes into, but this may work. Another tool I thought that might just be ideal for this is a tool designed to peel watch backs off, snapback watch cases. Oh yeah, this does do a nice job, doesn't it? There we go. So there's our original seal out with its chunk taken out of it. Now we have to push this one on there. Oh yeah, there's a lip. That little lip right there goes up inside there. Okay, so in the past I have heated these things up in hot water, and press them on. Unfortunately, it's not the kind of thing that's easy to do on camera. You have to put an awful lot of force on it, and I find it's just easier to press up against the side of my workbench. So I'm going to give that a shot. I'm going to soak this in some boiling water and clean this off first, and then see if it snaps on. So, okay, wish me luck. Well, it's on there. It's a little bit of a struggle there. Those things are not... they don't go on easy, but of course the point is they have to lock on tight enough that they won't come popping off when you're cocking the gun, so you don't want it to be a loose fit by any means. So that's on there. Now this little piece of synthetic material has pretty much double the cost of your gun if you were, say, somebody who picked it up for 30 bucks at a sporting goods flea market, if that's where you got it from. If it's something you've had sitting in the back of the shed or the garage or the den, awaiting a day when you can gift it to a grandson or granddaughter, well then maybe the extra cost of the new seal is no big deal. It was about $32 Canadian to get that, postage included. So yeah, they're not free, but they are certainly a way of getting an old gun going again. So. Well, since I've decided I'm going to do this the most complete and right way, I'm going to end up refinishing this stock. It's not in the worst condition, but we have lost some finish here and there all over it, which could be retouched a bit, but since this is a little more of a how-to video than what I'm used to doing, I'm going to try and do this the right way. So I'm going to use a scraper. To start with anyway, see if we can get through this finish and start removing it in the most gentle way possible, which is a scraper. I've flattened this edge with a file, and then I've run over it with a burnishing tool to create a nice little sharp burr on each side. Scraper is no good too if it's got a slightly rounded surface to it. It'll just rub back and forth without accomplishing anything. So you need that little bit of a burr on the edge there to accomplish it. So let's see what we can do. Well, I've got a lot of the finish scraped off now, but you can see some interesting issues we're going to have here is taking off the sprayed on varnish finish. You can see the original sanding marks left by the fairly hurried shaping of the stock at the factory. So these are not my doing. They obviously went through a belt sander of some sort, and the sprayed on finish was clever enough to hide that. But so if we're going to make a nice looking stock out of this, we have to sand this down after all. So that we'll do that. Got some sanding equipment can do that. It'll be dusty. It's one of the advantages of scraping is it doesn't generate as much dust, at least not airborne anyway. And this area here we have these green stains, which I thought might be some sort of green paint, but I'm thinking now that it's more of a copper stain. Maybe it's something, maybe it sat on something that was contained copper sulfate, something like that. It's definitely soaked into the wood a fair bit, so we'll have to, I don't know if sanding that will get rid of it or not. Maybe it's stained right the way through. I don't know. But the rest of it all came out fairly well. We'll just clean this up a bit, and we'll have something we can work with. Don't yet know what color I'm going to get into on it, but I had some ideas about just using a plain, just using a straight oil finish over top of it, but I think that is just going to be a little too wispy and pale for what I want to do. Well, I've decided I have to stain this stock after all, even though I was going for wanted a fairly light finish. But the staining at the back end of the stock here, where it's obviously sat in some chemical or something anyway, leached up into the stock, and it's just kind of, haven't been able to get rid of all of it. So the only solution is to stain over it where hopefully it is not as visible. Can't get rid of all the old sanding marks in the stock either. They're still kind of there, but anyway, so I just gave it a wipe down after final sanding. Wipe down with this super fine stuff, and these don't appear to be cracks after all. I think they're just blemishes in the wood. Thought for sure they were cracks, but maybe not. And I'm going to use a fairly orangey stain for this. This one's called Gunstock. Kind of appropriate, isn't it? Yeah, you can still see the dark areas there, but we'll see how it goes after a few coats. And I might even blend in some other stains as well. It's one thing I often like to do. I don't just take it for granted that this is the final color. I find this stain works well with a light yellowy brown stain applied over top or underneath, one way or the other. But we're not getting rid of that blemish in there. It's just sanding it doesn't seem to help. It seems to have soaked well into the wood fibers. Well, now the stock is oiled with an oil finish. I'm getting ready to put this all back together again. I will apply some wax to this, just rub it down a little bit and wax it when it's toughened up a bit, but for the time being, it looks good. The mechanical bits, well, I've got the rear sight put back on, the front sight is hooded. The barrel turned out pretty well. I'll give you some close-ups of that. And we have the receiver tube. So the one last thing I want to do before I put it all in is just take a gun cleaning patch here and smear some of my favorite moly grease on there and stuff it down there right to the end, and try to rub it around a bit around the walls and pull it on out. Hopefully that'll just help smooth the walls out a bit, lubricate it. So the old seal, new seal is on here. We don't want to damage it when we install it. I'm going to put a bit of silicone oil on it just to make it a little more slippery as it goes in. And as to the piston itself, again, more moly grease on its edges. You might notice I took some of the little burrs and rough spots off it. This is just a stamping. It's not a very fancy piston, but does the job. The cocking slot there is burred up a fair bit, but I don't think we can improve on that much. Okay. Might want to just brush a little more in here on the inside. Okay. biggest fear in these is buying a brand new seal and then damaging it on some little rough edges you're trying to install it in the gun. Okay. Next obstacle is right there. Here it is. It's got a very well-worn soft edge to it, and yet it's still strong. Plastic can work if it's got enough strength to crush that edge down. Okay, in we go. So far, so good. Looks like it's having trouble getting past these little windows here. Okay. Gently does it. Okay, we're in. It's not quite straight though. I've moved it over slightly this way. See if I can rotate it around. Yeah, oh yeah, that rotates no problem at all. Cocking a link will straighten that right out. Okay. Next step is I'm putting the grease on the spring. I'm going to use the red sticky stuff. Not too much of it. When this gun came to me, it was fairly well greased, so shows it hadn't been allowed to go bone dry over the years. I'm not going to slather on too much of this because this tacky grease can slow a spring down. Of course, it does dampen vibration nicely, which is why I'm using it. This is effectively tractor grease. Okay, in we go. This is the part we call the spring guide. It keeps the spring nice and straight, and it also has the hole for the cocking shaft to go inside. And this is going in here, and we're going to have to compress it. And to get it out, I use a socket from my socket set. to put the barrel back on. There, it's all back together. Brand new seal, most of the rust taken off. There's still a few little spots here and there that we can get rid of as we treat it a little bit more with some preservatives like ballistol or other CLP, whatever it might be. And very lightweight, neat, trim little air rifle that is ready to be tested. What if it works? Let's find out. So here's the Slavia 618, all ready to be tested over the chronograph. I'm going to use these Jayco wad cutters. These are a fairly light pellet, I think around about just a little over 7 grains, I think, last time I weighed them. And we'll start off with 5 of them, see how we do. Very easy and smooth gun to cock. Not a lot of effort required there at all. .450. Wow. That's impressive. .437. .444. .448. This is pretty consistent, isn't it? Of course, it's got a brand new seal in it, so, you know. .442. I'm going to call it a day at that. That looks pretty good to me. So I took the gun to the 10-meter range, and these JSB Express pellets seemed to group the best, although they did shoot considerably higher than my point of aim, even with the rear sight screwed all the way down. Anyway, if you've made it this far into the video, thank you for joining me on this little adventure into trying to restore these old rusty sticks that turned out to have air rifles buried underneath them. This is just a small little gun, of course, but the techniques used here can translate into, you know, that much larger gun, much more powerful gun, or whatever else you might want to pass on to a granddaughter or grandson. The metal came out way better than I thought it would, I have to admit. I really didn't think it would turn out this well. The wood refinishing, yeah, I was hoping it would turn out a little bit better than it did, but all in all, I'd call it a pretty decent rescue. Anyway, thanks for watching. Canuck Air will return. Consider subscribing.